Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Ninth Grade Experience podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Stuchko, and today is our final installment of our three-part series during hashtag EHS Career Month. I wanted to take a second before we jump into all the information to thank the counseling department for allowing me to give you some great information in several of these episodes. If you remember back to our first episode at the beginning of March, we had Mrs. Grimm on to talk about all the different events and things that were happening during this month of March. Our last episode was featuring two of our EHS graduates and the cool things they're doing, Lisa McDonald and Clarence Lamb. And today we're going to hear from a Hollywood producer, director, showrunner, who is just going to give us a little bit of career advice and information, and Mr. Brian Koppelman. So a couple of announcements real fast before we get into the episode. One, remember, the contest is still going. You can still win the green t-shirt. Yes, I'm still wearing it. So if you enter by posting to one of the social medias, hashtag EHS Career Month, a picture of something you've been doing, or just letting us know that you've been participating, you're eligible to win either this shirt or a sweatshirt as well. Not many students have entered. So again, if you want to enter, great time to do that now. So make sure you're doing that before the end of the month. Second, if you've noticed, I've been wearing this shirt all month throughout the school. So several people have stopped me. If you have a club or an organization that you want to promote on the podcast and you want me to wear your shirt for a week, a month, whatever, get in touch with me. I'm in room 223. Just let me know and we'll see if we can get your shirt a little bit of visibility on the podcast here. And then lastly, I'm reaching out to seniors. I know ninth grade experience, but for the seniors here, I'm going to try something new where we get to hear from the seniors to give some advice to our current freshmen and incoming freshmen that we're going to use on the podcast at the end of the school year and maybe throughout all of next school year as well too. So if you're interested, you can reach out to Mr. Stuchko, either in room 223. You can give me a message through email or Schoology as well. So before we get in, so let's talk about today's episode with Brian Koppelman. He is a screenwriter, director, filmmaker, and podcaster. You may have heard of some of the movies he's done, Ocean's 13 and Rounders, and he's currently the showrunner for the show Billions on Showtime. And Mr. Koppelman, I interviewed him last March, right at the beginning of the pandemic, so we're rerunning a little part of this. But he gives a lot of great info and tips here for students, especially ninth grade students, but all throughout high school, talking about the importance of reading and reading different kinds of books and how words unlock worlds. That's one of the things he said that's really awesome. His involvement in athletics and the arts in high school, so he was a balanced. And then lastly, talks about the importance of continuing to improve each day. And I think that's an important message to end this career month on, is that, you may not know exactly what you want to do, but when you listen to somebody like Brian here, he gives really great sound advice to just be the best person that you can be. So this episode doesn't have video because this is actually before we recorded video, but you'll see that it has like a cool little video visual that goes with the audio here as well. So thanks a lot for watching all these episodes during the month of March. And again, you can find us at ninthgradeexperience.com. And we look forward to working with seniors or whoever else wants to join us for the podcast in the future. So thanks a lot, everybody, and enjoy this episode with Brian Koppelman. Can you think back to your ninth grade high school experience?
I'll tell you, a really huge thing that happened for me in ninth grade was I started reading a different kind of book. And I remember ninth grade is when I read Catcher in the Rye. Ninth grade is when I read Jim Carroll's book, The Basketball Diaries. Ninth grade is when I read Separate Peace. And I remember in ninth grade, suddenly the books that I was given, some of the books I was given at school, transported me into a different place inside. I found friends, because sometimes in 7th and 8th grade, it wasn't always easy, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Friendships, I would have some friendships. Sometimes they wouldn't last as long as I would hope, or our interests would diverge. But I started reading a lot in ninth grade. I was always a reader, but in ninth grade, I really started reading a lot. And I found real kinship in what I was reading. I would read a book and then I would really think about it because I would not think about it like the way you have to in school. I would think about it because I wanted to think about it. I would suddenly kind of be lost in the book that I was reading. And that would make me curious to read other books by the people who wrote those books, or to talk to someone else in school about that. And I wasn't, again, I'll be honest, and you can edit the podcast any way that you want, but I was not a great student in subjects that didn't interest me. I had a really hard time. But what happened in ninth grade is I found some things that really, really compelled me. And so I was able to begin thinking about, well, I love this whole reading thing, reading and writing. Like, I love talking about books. Okay, this is something in school that I can excel at. I can understand, and I can talk about this. And my high school experience was a little bit split, because I never felt that way about math classes, and I would dread going to math class. And I didn't do particularly well in math class. But then I would know, okay, well, this afternoon after lunch, I have English, and there's a place where I'm going to be able to raise my hand a lot, and I'm going to be able to participate. And that meant a lot to me, and then I was able to have relationships, something like friendships, with a couple of English teachers, because they were able to see that I actually really cared about what they were talking about. And so, as I would get into 10th grade, 11th grade, and I would start talking about books with these teachers, or I would take more classes with those teachers, it gave me an access to a certain kind of mentorship that I really valued.
What were some of the things that you were involved in high school? And did that start for you as a freshman, or did you kind of wait a little bit of time to get involved with that kind of stuff?
I was in, I always auditioned for all of the school plays, and I played on 2 sports teams. So I was, I guess in ninth grade, I played junior varsity basketball and varsity tennis. I played varsity tennis the whole time. Mm-hmm. I was a tennis player just growing up. I loved tennis. It was a great release for me. And I loved basketball, and I played JV, and I was in the plays. So if I wasn't in a play, or if my role in the play wasn't great, I don't remember ninth grade if I had a really good role in the play and the music. We would do a play and a musical, one of each.
Yep, that's what they do here at our high school.
But I always worked on the crews too, and that's a great thing to do. So I loved working as an assistant director. My favorite teacher was a person named Jordan Hornstein, and I've named characters after him and stuff. And Jordan was an English teacher, but he was also the drama teacher, and directed the plays and musicals. And I loved working closely with him. So I would be in a play, then I would be the assistant director of another play. I would work as just being a part of it. And I loved the experience of being, because it gave me a great sense of camaraderie. I mean, one of the things that starts to happen in high school is, as you start to have these interests, you don't just make friends or meet people the ways you did earlier. You're meeting people who share an affinity that you share. So I had an affinity for the 2 things that I loved then. I mean, I loved music, so I was a huge record collector, which doesn't now, there's no such thing as that. I guess it's people who just spend a lot of time on Spotify or iMusic. But I would act in the plays, be a part of the plays, and then I played on sports teams. And those things gave me, like you're saying, a way to be involved that wasn't just scholastically. And it also put me in different peer groups. And I do think that doing things that are in quite different peer groups. So there was very little crossover in the basketball tennis team and the theater, right? Those were pretty much disparate groups of people. And it would always crack me up when the guys who I played sports with would come see the play, and they would be talking in sports terms almost about the whole thing. Yeah, you did good up there, solid work, or whatever the thing would be, the way they would talk about sports. And so I would try to bridge that gap. I mean,
what kind of, I know this is a really big blanket question, but as a ninth grader or even a high schooler in general, what advice would you have for somebody as they're maybe sitting at home now, where they have all this kind of extra time, or just advice in general on how to kind of listen to that voice of what you're really kind of passionate about and kind of move yourself forward in that way? And how do you kind of get somebody to realize that maybe this is what I should go for?
I love thinking about this. And I don't want to give an easy or glib answer. I would say be open to changing your mind. Be open to listening to the quiet voice that's your own voice, that's leading you toward what fascinates you, toward what you find compelling, toward work that makes you feel alive inside. The happiest people I've met in life, once they have the basics taken care of, I'm not telling you don't find a way to keep a roof over your head, but the happiest people I've met are people who have found a way to work from a place that makes them feel alive. There are many opportunities to work from a place that, whatever your least favorite class is, that sort of deadened feeling when you have to do that stuff. And then there's some stuff where you just feel like you're working from a place where you're tingling a little bit. And I would just be listening for those signals. And when I hear those signals, I would be chasing in that direction. But I would be open to know, okay, that's a period of life, and maybe there's something else that might take me in another direction. And I can't overstate how important reading is. Reading, learning, and reading. Reading about whatever it is that you find compelling, listening to podcasts, listening to books, continuing to just add to the depth of your knowledge for yourself, not because someone else told you to read it. It just is a path to entirely new worlds, new challenges, new ideas.
It's really good, for our high school students to hear, like somebody that's, at almost at the pinnacle of your career, at top of profession, like shows on, movies and shows on cable, and just is doing what I assume you love to do, is always still growing and looking to learn and, better themselves. And it's not just I made it, now I'm here. It's always like, how can I keep improving? How can I keep doing better each day?
You're completely right, Chris. I want to, by tomorrow, I want to know something that I don't know today. I want to feel something that I'm not necessarily feeling today. I'm always looking to grow. Bob Dylan talks about, one of his most famous lines is, if you're not busy being born, you're busy dying. And what he means by that is every day you have the opportunity to become a better, deeper, richer version of yourself, as opposed to stagnating. And so, yeah, I'm always looking for the next new bit of life and information that I can put my arms around. When you hear a word that you don't know, make it a practice to write it down, look it up, and use it 3 times the next day. I cannot tell you how much your life improves. It improves exponentially with each new word you add. Each new word you add to your vocabulary is an entire world. It's a world. You don't know that right away, but each word is a world, and it leads you into incredibly new places and with incredible amounts of depth. When you hear the name of a movie you haven't seen, an old record album, music you haven't heard, a word you don't know, write that stuff down, catalog it, chase it down, see what compels you about it. Words are power. The ability to use words to communicate exactly what you're thinking and feeling, to understand exactly what you're thinking and feeling. Words unlock worlds. And so I don't think there's anything more important I could say than you're at a point where your brains have an incredible ability to learn. There's an incredible amount of plasticity in your brains where you can learn, especially when you're interested in learning it. And if you understand the why and the reason you want to know words is, well, a few things. One, nothing makes you look smarter more quickly than an expanded vocabulary. 2, it lets you understand yourself because you will have feelings and thoughts, and suddenly these words will give them names and will lead you into other ways to explore them. every time you learn a new word, it allows you to follow a path to 10 more new words. So if I could leave you with one thing, it's that when you hear a word you don't know, don't worry about looking goofy. Quickly jot it down on your phone, look it up, and then use it 3 times in a sentence the next day. And then that word will be yours forever.
Brian, thanks so much for taking the time. And, hopefully our 9th graders get a whole lot out of this. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Be well.